So this is question 4. Question 4 is, who would be the audience for your media product? Our primary audience would be people who like to watch thrillers. This is because our genre was thriller based at the beginning, but then we added that psychological factor, and so it became a psychological thriller. But the main genre is thriller, so our main audience would be people who are into thrillers. So people who've watched Inception, and then our secondary audience would be people who are into that psychological, who are into like psychological movies, who can break it down and understand what's happening. For example, why our character had a while walking had a blurry POV shot looking into the kitchen, how there was no sound at all, how he was stumbling whilst he was walking. All these features make it psychological. Also, the fact that he wakes up with a bandage on his head and then the blurriness, so that can add a psychological effect. And so, our primary audience would be people who like psychological thrillers. There was no language, as we had no dialogue. We wanted to keep dialogue minimal so that the audience are left on lots of cliffhangers, as thrillers tend to do. We had our protagonist was a teenager. You could tell by the clothes he was wearing how teenagers like to wear the brand Vans. So you could just tell by his face, his height. He was a teenager. So our target audience would be thriller, people who like to watch thrillers, but also a certain age range. So ours would be teenagers, so about 16 to 18 or 16 to 20. However, adults would be our secondary audience, because young people wouldn't understand this sort of the psychological part. They just think it's a horror, seeing that it's dark and there's no sound, and how it ends when he walks out the door and the screen goes black. So if the secondary audience were adults, they could understand the psychological part as to why his vision would be blurry after waking up out of a coma. They could put two and two together. Target audience is promoted when the protagonist is wearing a Vans t-shirt, which shows that this engages with the younger audience, the teenagers, because teenagers tend to wear Vans, because you get Vans t-shirts and you get jeans from there. Especially people like to wear shoes. People wear Vans all the time. It's a big brand. So we thought if we make the protagonist wear Vans, teenagers could engage with this.